Back to Court TV Live along with Julia Janae. I'm Ted Rollins in California. A hearing for the Menendez brothers is underway.
The judge is hearing arguments on this request by the Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman to delay the resentencing hearing that we've all been anticipating. And keep in mind, no cameras are allowed in the courtroom, but we do have a team inside, and we have Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who's been following this case for quite some time. And Matt, we know you're in Dedham, Massachusetts, but you are keeping us updated on what's happening there in California. What are we expecting today?
Yeah, you know, just growing up in California and then also following the case as a news anchor in that LA area, I mean, it's something that really has fascinated people for decades. And this is the first time that you have Erik and Lyle Menendez with the possibility of actually being released after they were served, they were sentenced to life behind bars without the possibility of parole. So today is their first window, their first chance, and arguments their defense attorneys are going to be making over the next 2 days. So this is all taking place in a courthouse there in Van Nuys, California, outside of LA proper. And, you know, there is dozens of media from across the globe that are there for this all-important hearing. This is taking place after a judge ruled that the LA County District Attorney, the current one, Nathan Hochman, could not rescind his office's prior recommendation for the resentencing, and he wanted it to be stopped or he wanted it to be postponed. Late last night, he actually filed a new motion on the docket. Take a look at this. It was for a motion to continuance. It says, quote, "The people request the court make all reasonable efforts to obtain the recently completed comprehensive risk assessments from the governor's office. If additional time is required to obtain these documents, the people ask the court to continue the resentencing hearing." Well, since taking office, he has been very outspoken, as you know, that the brothers should not be granted a new trial through either their habeas petition for a new trial under the guidelines that their defense claims that there's new evidence of abuse that wasn't admitted before the second jury on their second trial that got them convicted. And he's also saying that they shouldn't be resentenced for a number of reasons, including the fact that Nathan Hochman believes that the brothers have not met all the requirements and have actually not apologized and owned up to their crimes. Here's what he told reporters just a couple weeks ago.
We are prepared to go forward with the court's initiated resentencing proceedings and look forward to a resentencing hearing on that motion. However, we are asking the court to withdraw the previous district attorney's motion for resentencing because we believe there are legitimate reasons and the interest of justice justifies that withdrawal. With respect to them, the key issue of exhibiting insight, full insight into their crimes and completely accepting responsibility for their actions, this is where the Menendezes, like Sirhan, also fall short.
It was one of those Court TV legendary trials and cases that seems to be in the news each and every day as we approach today, which is that big critical hearing that's going to spill over into tomorrow. But we expect the arguments taking place in that courtroom right now in Van Nuys to parrot what we've been hearing on the courthouse steps and inside that DA's office when he's there at the podium saying that, you know, they haven't met their requirements and they should not be released because this district attorney taking a very different viewpoint from his predecessor, George Gascon, who recommended this resentencing hearing.
Night and day in between the two. We can assume, I would guess, that the judge denied the motion to continue because it's now been an hour. It wouldn't take that long for the arguments there. They're still at it. So if they've moved on to day one of this resentencing hearing, I know the defense has a number of witnesses, and there are other tracks. What is really next here? It's not like the Menendez brothers are going to come bursting out of that courthouse and, you know, be free. This is a pivotal stop in a very long road.
Yeah, and it's one of the three paths that are still open in this case, right? So with that last-minute filing of the petition to postpone, that was going to be taken up first. So what we're assuming right now, since there's no cameras in that courtroom, we do have Court TV, a producer in there taking notes, but you can't just come and go out of the courtroom. So we're going to keep you updated throughout the day. That's number one. But number two is, you know, they were going to take up that motion. We can assume now that the arguments are underway, and we can assume that they're going over that governor's recommendation by the parole board, whether or not there is a risk if these brothers are released into the general public. And then there's the second path of clemency that the governor will take under advisement after receiving this report that was completed on Tuesday. Here's what the governor, Gavin Newsom of California, had to say about it on a podcast.
It doesn't impact the process that's underway, that review for clemency in my office, or the independent risk assessment that will be concluded on June 13th by the Board of Parole Hearings.
You have Governor Gavin Newsom, who will take that report that is being discussed today, and he'll decide whether or not clemency is something that he wants to pursue and release the brothers. He can do that at any time. And then you have this resentencing hearing where a judge can rule on the spot that under California's new guidelines, since they were very young when these crimes took place, that they actually would have already met requirements to be released into the general public. So that's going to be decided after these 2 days. And then we are still waiting for a judge in the third path for their habeas petition for a brand new trial, because the defense claims that they didn't get a fair trial because all the evidence didn't come in. And so those are the three paths right now.
Three paths, and right now we're focusing on this resentencing that's happening there inside of that courtroom. Matt Johnson, thank you for monitoring that for us. Again, we do have our team inside of the courtroom, so we will bring you those updates once we know what's happening inside.
Yeah, I wish we had a camera there, because it'd be compelling. I have Mark Garagos on one side and Hochman on the other. I'm sure this is a legal battle that's worth watching.
Absolutely, and I'd love to hear what the judge is saying. But we will have the notes, and we'll be able to share what is happening as soon as we can. For now, let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Rob Corbett, who is standing by. Rob, what's standing out to you about where we are in the process now, and why the district attorney Nathan Hochman wanted to delay this? I mean, that risk assessment is something that the governor's office dealt with, but does the district attorney need that to go forward with this resentencing hearing?
Oh, I would think the district attorney would probably want all of the available information. So available information being what type of risk the Menendez brothers would pose. So I can understand in terms of wanting that. In terms of where we are now, the new elected district attorney, his position is that he does not want to go forward with this, but the Menendez brothers and team have already relied on what the previous district attorney recommended. So I agree in terms of what appears the judge has ruled is that the new district attorney cannot change the office's opinion that they have to go forward. Now, in terms of what may happen, getting a new trial, I think that is going to be a long shot. But in terms of perhaps the judge ruling that they should be resentenced based on the current law in California, and under the youthful offenders law, they could be sentenced to a term of 50 years to life, meaning that they will be eligible for parole almost immediately. And I think that might be in terms of the more appropriate means to go. And then the defense attorney in me obviously would say, if I have a client under similar circumstances, I would want them to get this same benefit, not just a high profile case that has captured everyone's attention, but even someone in terms of that person whose case did not make the news or just made it shortly. I would want my client to get the same benefit. So as a defense attorney out there, I hope, I would be hoping the Menendez brothers get some type of benefit, and then I would probably be pushing any other similar types of cases to get that same benefit as well.
And the legislature in California, on two separate occasions, passed legislation to accomplish the goal of offenders that are serving life sentences for their behavior to be reassessed, to alleviate overcrowding on one level, and it's a humanitarian thing on another. It's California, but so people are thinking, well, they were convicted of murder and sentenced to life. How can it ever change? Well, in California, there are mechanisms, and they do tick off a lot of the boxes. I mean, their behavior in prison seems to be exemplary. So we'll see. I agree. I think the whole thing's political, though, isn't it, Rob, at its core? I mean, you've got this, Gascon sort of ran on it. He was losing in the polls, so he holds press conferences about the Menendez brothers to get it out there right before. And on the other hand, Hochman sort of ran against it, and now here he is sort sort of pushing this, and Governor Newsom in the middle. How frustrating for attorneys must it be, and for, I'm sure, the defendants, for this to be part of a political quagmire?
Well, it definitely does appear to be political, and as defense attorneys, you would prefer that certain things like that not occur, but it's not something that we're not used to. And what I mean by that is that when you have a new district attorney come in, sometimes that they can take the position certain cases are going to be a priority versus what the previous administration may have pushed for. But in terms of when you mentioned that California has the law that if you check certain boxes, then you can have your sentences reevaluated. And I would say that's a good thing, because we think in terms of prisons shouldn't just be about punishment, but it should also be about rehabilitation. So if you've been in prison for 30 years and you are checking these boxes, showing that you are doing those things so that you can once again be a member of society, then I think that's a good thing all around.
We will see what happens inside of that courtroom. If their sentence gets changed, we know it's a 2-day hearing, though, so we won't hear back today a decision likely from the judge, but we will hear what's happening inside of that courtroom.